Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever it is for all of you, everyone. Welcome back for another round 17 of our second season here in F1 2019. Got a comfortable little 23-point lead over Charles Leclerc as we're trying to hunt our way down for third place in the Drivers' Championship. So not locked in quite yet, but we're starting to get to a point where there's only a couple races left. So if we can continue to finish well, really it's just going to depend on where we finish around him. And we can have a good shot at surviving and putting our best season finish up in our second season here, getting into that top three spots there. Pretty much the top group is out of reach. Max Verstappen nearly has it locked up at this stage, that absolute rocket of a Red Bull, and you can see just how much in the development charts, how much everybody else has flatlined out with the amount of adaptations that are going to go on this offseason. A lot of teams are going to have to put a lot of effort into that to bringing those up to snuff. So let's jump over to qualifying.
Welcome to the only figure-of-8 track on the F1 calendar. We're here at Suzuka for qualifying today ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix. It always looked like the kind of track that asks an awful lot of the rear tyres, such as the frequency of low-speed exits.
Lots of low-speed exits means the rears are in for a lot of punishment. It's all too easy to spin them up coming out of a corner too aggressively. It might look great for us as spectators, as we love to see a car driven beyond its limits, but it's not going to result in a great long-run pace.
All right, out on the road here in Suzuka, Japan, at the tail end of our first flying lap here. Try and set some good lap times. Overcast weather here, so the track grip is a little bit down. Just kind of trying to nail Spoon Corner, which was a corner that's tough your first time around. It's a rhythm corner. Once you get kind of figured out in that double apex, you can carry a lot better speed through it. That's kind of probably one of the biggest areas I gained time, and of course the famous 130R flat out in today's high downforce cars. Also, the corner's been reshaped a bit from its original layout, so the old cars where you had to kind of lift and get on it are a little different these days. So it's a fun corner to attack in, obviously home of Alonso's pretty famous round the outside of Michael Schumacher. But here we are, we had set P16, we're just finishing up our second flying lap here, trying to get ourselves out of the drop zone. We go 13th, so just managed to sneak our way into Q2, which is where we are now on our first run on the medium tires here. We've got a car following us all the way through on soft tires, been kind of hounding us at the rear. We might have been holding him up just a little bit. I believe it's an Alfa Romeo, and of course over that little bump that exists in the game for some reason, not quite sure. But it's tough, so Lucas was behind us. So hop ahead out on the soft, so we're in the drop zone, P14 right now. So we got to try and finish off with a good last little bit of the lap here. Try and improve our times to get into that top 10 into Q3. We're about a quarter second up on our previous best at the moment. Looking like it might not be enough. We're pretty significantly off the pace for this qualifying season. 1.4 down of the top spot, but we're into the bus stop chicane here. See if we can make up any time. We've actually lost some time just a little bit too early on the brakes, but a little better exit. But we only pick up about a 10th and a half there, so not going to move us too far up the grid. In fact, yeah, we drop all the way 15th, so we do not improve on our time there. So we are going to be starting pretty near the back here for the start of the race.
We're live today from the Mie Prefecture of Japan as we look forward to the Japanese Grand Prix. The 2015 race here was one of only 5 Grand Prix in history to feature no retirements at all. Although with the highly competitive field we have today, I don't expect we'll be repeating that stat anytime soon. 18 corners make up a lap of the incredible figure-of-8 Suzuka circuit, with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, for a distance of 3.6 miles. Average lap speeds around here are fairly quick. If it stays dry, then expect somewhere in the region of 136 miles per hour. Alongside me once again for coverage of today's race, it's none other than the great Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about old-timer. No grid penalties, no mitigating circumstances, just a poor qualifying performance and a very disappointing start position for them today.
It's not a nice feeling, I promise you. They've got a quick car underneath them, but they've got onto the grid today and they need a pair of binoculars to see the start lights. They'll be desperate for a good start to make up for some of that deficit.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position with Charles Leclerc alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Bottas, Sergio Perez, and Faber, Raikkonen, Gasly, Albon, and Antonio Giovinazzi. Stroll, Vettel, George Russell, Oldtimer, Butler, Sainz, Romain Grosjean, and Lando Norris. Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
We're still in with a chance of winning the title. We need you to push as hard as you can in the 5 remaining races.
Man, Crofty really went in on us. No grid penalties, no issues, just terrible qualifying. Well, thanks for that one. We are not in the ideal position, I will admit, and especially with Leclerc starting on the front row there, so he has a very good opportunity to make up a lot of ground in the Drivers' Championship at this stage. As you heard Jeff there, not mathematically eliminated just yet, but we're definitely running out of time. We essentially would have to win out to have a chance at the actual title, because we are not only behind Verstappen, we are still a good chunk of points behind Lewis Hamilton as well. We're about 120 points down in the overall championship. And with a maximum of picking up 26 a race, basically have to win out and hope they DNF. But you can see me fiddling with the strategy, going with that medium onto soft. The tires behaved pretty nicely in practice, was able to keep them fairly well alive. So we'll go ahead and should be able to run a slightly softer compound than the cars around us for the duration of this race. But it's going to be a matter of trying to work our way through the field and at least get up with Leclerc. But here the 5 red lights are up and away they are. So we'll get a decent start off, but kind of have to cover ourselves off. Very treacherous turn 1 combination here at Suzuka. That double apex really creates quite a bit of accordioning. So not a safe area. So we're going to close right up on this group and into the S's, which is tough when it's so tight. When you're following somebody through this S section, you lose so much downforce on the front wing. You can see just how much the nose washes out of a lot of these corners. Can't carry a lot of speed through there. So it's just a matter of keeping the car on track, not letting the cars behind us get too close to attack us, and we should be able to kind of settle ourselves into the next overtaking zone. Have a tiny look in a ding or two, but not enough room to make it. But we are going to have the hairpin coming up where they're really going to back up. So we're going to take a long, late dive, little bit of a lockup, but we're able to pull alongside our teammate George Russell. Just kind of ease our way to the edge of the track, give him not a ton of space on the runoff, and make the move and pick up our first position of the race. We did get one free slot on the grid thanks to penalties. Went from 15th to 14th, but not a huge opportunity to move up the grid. So now we are on to getting on the back end of Vettel. Now, obviously, Suzuka right now, only one DRS zone down the front straight, even heading into 130R here. No DRS straight this year. So a lot of your overtakes are on Suzuka. You have to just kind of make them on merit, because while you can get a decent run down this pretty short front straight into turn 1, it's not a great passing opportunity unless you're really well set up. And you see George Russell coming down. We're going to defend the inside. We're side by side through turns 1. He's slotting back in, coming through turn 2, but he gets a little bit down to the inside of the entry. We're going to continue go wheel to wheel. We're just going to give him not quite enough room to pull fully alongside us. There's really only one line through the S's. Very hard to make an overtake there. And it's very hard to give somebody room through the S's. The way that you throw the car on to keep it on track, you use the entire course. So not an easy opportunity for him to try and make a move past us. We managed to defend just well enough and try and get back on our horse to chase after the prancing horses of the Ferrari in front of us of Sebastian Vettel. So early stages of the race here, everybody on the pretty much on the soft tires around us. We're one of the only ones that really started off on the mediums. So we are giving up a little bit of pace in the corners at the early stages. But especially once we start to chew into the top 10, their softs are going to fall off a little faster than our obviously fresh medium tires. Now, one thing I was able to do during Q1, where you are allotted 2 sets of soft, I was actually able to set the faster second lap time on the same set of old softs. So I have a fresh set of softs for the end of the race, as opposed to having to take a used set, since I did use the set in Q2 to try and get myself into Q3, but that didn't work. And so DRS is now open. Vettel's opened up a little bit of a lead, mostly by virtue of that faster tire currently on the heavier fuel load. So as typically, it's just kind of a matter of hanging on, holding position once the field stretches out until we start to get tire advantage. And then once we get to the end of the race, after we've made our pit stop, we'll be on those soft tires, fresh soft tires with a lighter fuel load, so we'll have a significant pace advantage over the mediums and hards that everybody else will be going on to. I think for the most part, most cars went with a one-stop strategy around Suzuka here. Usually if I'm able to run a medium-soft strategy, pretty much everybody's going to be running at least a soft-hard one-stop. Almost nobody runs a two-stop when you can run the two softer compounds. If it's a track and back end really stepping out, somehow keep the car going forward, massive countersteer. You see the run that George Russell's getting on us there, so we can give him a little bit of a squeeze to the inside, but we're going to move back to the outside as we get ready to head through 130R. We're going to kind of lift because with the heavy fuel load, we aren't quite able to go flat around the outside, but George Russell was not brave enough to stick it down the inside, even though we lifted to give him space, and we managed to hold off the position there. But now he's going to have DRS on us, so we get on the throttle down the main straight here. And you see him dive to the inside to make his move past us. We're going to lift early into turn 1. We're not going to fight him through turn 1, but the lift allows the McLaren of Lando Norris to come up the inside of us, but we managed to just hold him off through the start of the S sections. Again, back to that characteristic where there's really one line to get through the S's, and if you try to get offline, you're not going to complete a pass unless you have a massive grip advantage, which right now with the heavy fuel load, the grip advantage is not quite as pronounced between the softs and the mediums. Through Danger 1 and 2, real tight, fast Danger 1, and then you're on the brakes for a much slower 2 to set yourself up for the hairpin. You still see a pretty good contact around most of the group. The lead pack is kind of shot off there. We got looks like Red Bull, both Mercedes, the Ferrari of Leclerc, and then the Racing Point almost certainly of Sergio Perez, who's just been an absolute monster. But we get a pretty good run out of Spoon here. We're going to tuck in the slipstream, crank up ERS, and now we are going to try and be brave on George Russell. We go around the inside. We're able to make it pretty cleanly through and hold flat through 130R and take that position back from him. So we're back up to lucky number 13 on the grid. And now DRS is open for both of us, so we were just close enough to Vettel to collect the DRS there, so it's not going to allow George Russell. And there's got caution ahead, sideways car, Gasly off the track, comes down directly into Vettel. Somehow we managed to dodge our way out of there. Seb is out of the session, and now that's 2 races in a row where we've had to dodge our way through quite a scary crash. Obviously Russia last week was in turn 1, a little more ready for that. Was not expecting to see Gasly have gone off sideways in turn 1 and then rejoined incredibly unsafely and just smashed Sebastian out of the race there.
Virtual safety car, virtual safety
and now,
car.
as kind of expected, the VSC is out for collecting that wreckage. But we're going to hop ahead. Lap 11, the VSC is cleared up. Few cars have made their way into the pit lane, and we've kind of chased down Kimi Räikkönen, who is stayed out on those softs a little bit longer. We're P17 at the moment. You can see a teal dot on the map behind me. One of the Mercedes that has already made their pit stop starting to catch up, but We're going to get in the slipstream, have a look at Raikkonen into 130R. Lighter fuel load, we're able to hang it out down the inside, flat out, and he backs out because he's going around the outside, not going to stick it around, so we managed to swing wide for the exit and snag that position off of him on merit. And you can see a couple more cars, Giovinazzi and Perez now in the pit stop there. About 5 seconds back of our actual next racer, Lance Stroll there, it says, so we've got some ground to make up on him, but I would be rather unsurprised if he pits before we catch him. So hop ahead, lap 16 now. We've gone a little further along. We are P2. Valtteri Bottas, the Mercedes, has caught up behind us. And there's a DNF for Alex Albon for some reason. Just a mechanical failure takes him out of the race, and we're just kind of trying to defend ourselves. We're on pretty old mediums. Valtteri's on much softer tires. We're running this stint basically as long as we can, and he gets a pretty solid exit out of the hairpin, and you can just see the extra drive that the extra grip gets him. He's able to go pretty easily down the inside as we hit the braking zone for Spoon. Now, can we stay close enough to catch some slipstream and try and get him back down 130R? If we can get that toe, we might be able to make a run on him. So crank the ERS up, see if we can't make a move. As the sparks fly, not close enough to make a move into 130R. So we've pretty much had to concede that position. We're not really going to be quick enough to catch him in these next couple of corners. DRS will allow us to stay a little more connected, but you can see he's still a couple dots ahead as we hopped ahead lap 17. Now it's time for us to hop in and grab a fresh set of tires. 9 laps to go in this race here, so we'll be running absolutely as hard as we can on those softs. We'll see what position we are we drop to coming out of the pits here. A good quick stop there as the battle goes by us. Looks like Hamilton is going to make his way past us as well. Now, are we going to slot out ahead of that maroon dot of the Alpha? Yes, we are. So P9 is what we are out after everybody's made their pit stops. No more pit stops for the rest of the race for anybody. We've got 9 laps to try and chew our way through as much of the field as we can, and that's going to be a pretty tall order. We're going to have to be chewing off multiple seconds per lap here. We do have the tire advantage. We do have a good, quick race car here, but the overall pace this weekend was not our best opportunity. As I say, weekend, and emphasize it like a Britishman, and not like an American who says weekend. But you know, you hear it enough times. You hear the weekend. You end up saying it from time to time. But you can see how much ground we've made up on Hamilton already. Him on those hard tires, not nearly as fast. I think the hard tires just raw out in an even shootout are a couple of seconds a lap slower than the softs. And right now we are also pushing in a very high ERS mode. So here we are from pretty far back. We get some good drive. Fuel mix all the way up. ERS all the way up. And stick it down the inside. As you see, we set a purple second sector there, the fastest of anybody on the session, but we are slowed down by our first sector that's slowed down by the pits. As you see, we have a pretty solid lap, a good chance at taking the fastest lap away, but the pit exit really, our out lap is what it was, so it definitely was not as quick. But we've put Hamilton in our rearview mirror, and fortunate for us, Leclerc started second, but here he is, P7 just in front of us, so he lost some ground on his race pace. So all told, him starting second and us starting 14th, it looks like it could have been a potentially disastrous day for our championship lead on him. But here he is, the next car in our sights. We have tire advantage. We're only 1.3 seconds down. We're almost a full second up of our best lap on these new soft tires. So definitely have some huge pace in that first sector, and it's just going to continue to increase. You see out of the hairpin, we gain a huge chunk of time there. We're going to almost certainly be setting ourselves up for an excellent run down the back straight into 130R. Try and make the same kind of move that we made on Hamilton. You see it right up behind him. Get on the throttle nice and early. And yeah, we're tucked right in. Crank everything up. He kind of squeezes us to the inside, but we are taking the inside no matter what. I don't care if he pushes us off to the grass, but we're able to get well clear of him into 130R there. An easy move as we had that significant tire advantage. A little bit of a lockup into the bus stop chicane, but we managed to hold him off and get ourselves down the front straight safely. That little bump coming out of the last corner there as you head down the front straight, it's an area where turn-wise it's flat out, you can just run it, but that bump unsettles the car significantly. So we hop ahead a few laps. Lap 22 of 27 now, we've chased down Lance Stroll in front of us. And really, 130R really turned out to be our favorite overtaking spot of the day. As you can see, we just kind of use our tire advantage to set up positioning through Spoon. And this one we're a little far back, but we're going to crank everything up and try and make another run. The slipstream is pretty powerful down this straight. It's going to be a risky one. We're getting closer to 130R. No, we have to back out of it. Not quite enough space there. We're almost on there. Not enough run. Having to back out of 130R there did not allow us the momentum to make a run into the bus stop chicane there. So we're going to go ahead and use DRS and see if we can make a move this way. So here we are, catching. Let's look to the outside. Nah, it's not a safe move. We're going to back out of it. And we're just going to have to settle in for a little while here. No opportunity, even with a significant tire and pace advantage through Sector 1. There's really just nothing we can do to get by him, especially as we lose all that front downforce. Alright, so here we are. Get on the throttle nice and early. Is there an opportunity of making it through one of the Danger 1 or 2? Oh, not quite. We're going to settle in. Can we get a good exit? Maybe go for the hairpin. Ah, he's a little far ahead. So it looks like, you see, you don't make that move through 130R, and you're just not quite close enough to make it through the bus stop chicane either. And you're pretty much stuck behind a car for a full lap. We're basically as close to him as we were last time around. Maybe just a little bit closer. We'll be able to set him up out of Spoon a little bit better this time. We won't have to make up quite as much ground on the straight here. So crank that ERS up to the full deployment. Grab the slipstream, and yeah, this time we are going to have a good opportunity to go down the inside 130R, pitch the car in there, and just let the soft tires stick us down. Thanks, Jeff. I thought it was a nice move myself. Well, there we go. Now we're lap 24 of 27. 7.9, 8.2 seconds down. Just, it's a lot to make up in 3 laps. We run a little bit wide there. We are starting to feel the tire deg start to kick in on these softs. Really pushed them very hard to make up as much ground as I could. So now it's a matter of keeping Stroll behind us. As you see, Kimi Räikkönen's out of the session there. 4 DNFs this race. We've only 16 cars running. Really the biggest attrition rate really of any race we've had so far. I thought Russia surely would have had more DNFs than the 2 it had. But another wreck here in Suzuka, and then a few more mechanical DNFs have really ruined the day for a few more people. But you can see as our tire advantage is starting to wear off, the mediums are starting to get a little stronger as the softs degrade past the point of the mediums. They're going to be able to hang with me a little longer. So as much as I'm trying to make my way up through the field and catch the guy in front of me, 8 seconds is a lot, and I also have to worry about 1 racing point of Lance Stroll right behind me. Got a little distracted checking my mirrors, a little rub of the grass there. No harm, no foul though, but see how close he is still into the bus stop chicane, and that he's certainly going to have DRS down the main straight and have a chance to attack into turn 1 here. So we're going to have to set our car up in a good spot, not allow him to get a run, also just crank up all the deployments so he doesn't close up. But you can see just how much ground he made up down that straight. But we managed to hold him just off as we whiz into the first turn of the S's here at Suzuka. Suzuka is a nice track. It's a nice mix of a lot of different corner types. Obviously, you have a tremendous rhythm section in the S's. coming out of the first 2 corners, and then you're into the danger, which is pretty traditional, like almost 90-degree corners. You really throw the car into a hairpin. You've got spoon, which is a nice double apex left-hander that takes some good patience and a really good line to get just right. And of course, you've got 130R, the absolute flat-out beast that produces some good excitement, and the bus stop chicane that really tests your braking prowess. But it's got a little bit for everyone. So we're gonna hop ahead. Lap 27. We're still P6. You still see that pink dot of Lance Stroll harassing us behind. Verstappen takes yet another win. He has already crossed the start-finish line. We really only made up about a second or so, I believe, on the group ahead. We'll see as we head down the back straight. We'll be able to see what the time gap is. We were 8 seconds after we had made our pass of Stroll there.
Less than a lap of fuel
So
now.
we'll see if
The tank
we
is empty.
even made any ground up. 7.8, we made about a half a second. But we did manage to gap Stroll just a little bit to at least get out of DRS range for the last couple of laps. And so it's just a matter of bringing the car home safely through these last couple of quarters. And all told, not a bad run to get up into the points from a P14 start in a pretty rough qualifying. Just pure pace put us down the grid.
Red Bull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection, a shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team. So, let's review the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Some amazing talents out on the track today, but Anthony, who would you pick as your driver of the day?
Daniel Ricciardo certainly impressed me today, an incredible performance.
Let's move on to the constructors. Red Bull pulled further ahead in the standings. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
George Russell once again pretty tremendously off the pace, dropping positions, but Sergio Perez another podium. Really turning into a threat here. So we've got a 30-point lead on Leclerc there, but we are about just shy of 70 points down of Lewis Hamilton, and Verstappen's just about got it locked up. But see that racing point, it's only 80 points back of us now. Essentially, and if George Russell's not going to be contributing and the racing points are consistently making it into the points,
Amazing performance out
with
there.
4 races
I'm
left
sure
to go,
you're pretty happy
we could
with
be in
that.
danger.
You were cutting your way through the field during the race.
Yeah, I mean, really came down to the straight line speed in 130R, so raw horsepower, nobody can compete with it.
It's looking like the championship is already won. Do you think there's still time for this to change?
I mean, I'll do what I can, but I don't think there's really any opportunity for it to change. It's pretty significant points gaps right now.
You had a pretty close finish with Lucas. What's it like racing a former teammate?
I mean, I raced him earlier. It's an interesting challenge, and I'm learning a lot from it. But at the end of the race, I was 8 seconds off the back of him. It wasn't really a close finish.
Great. Well, that's everything.
Thanks, Claire.
Excellent result today. Finishes like that will look good on your contract reviews. On to the next
Thanks,
one.
Emma. So here we are back in the garage. We're going to go ahead and take our reasonable haul of R&D points and see what we can do to get our car
Looks
ready
like
for
one
next
of your
season.
rivals is also going to an upcoming historical event. If you choose to take him on, it might help get your name out there a bit.
Oh, I'll take him on, and I shall beat him. Anything interesting? Not much interesting in the mailbox there. So how many more things do we have to develop? We've got 2 more powertrain developments and then 17 aero developments. So we got 1,000 points here. So 500 for both of these majors will pretty much finish off the powertrain development, which is good. Now we'll be focusing on the aero development for the rest of the season, but about 200 points apiece on minors, 500 on majors. we might have to take a little bit of a step back in our aerodynamics department on next season's developments. But take a look at the quick peek at these standings, and then we'll head off to an invitational a little bit later. But thank you guys for joining me once again. We are headed out to Mexico to start the kind of closing stretch. I'll catch you next time. Peace.